I'm Tom Folks. I'm Chair of the Board of Trustees of Millsaps College. And on behalf of our board, I want to thank you for being here for this special time. I do want to recognize members of the board that are here today. Ward Van Sciver, Chuck Latham, Ricky James, Mike Sturdivant, and Gene Medley. Did I miss anybody? And in addition, former trustees Crystal Morrison and two others that you'll hear more about later, William Yates and Vaughn McRae. And Joey Shelton, former trustee, current employee of the college. I set foot on this space 56 years ago. At that time, it needed work. That is unchanged in these 56 years. I have an idea the Board of Trustees of Millsaps College in 1961 had a conversation just like the board has had since I've been a member in the last 20 plus years. There are some college presidents who are audacious enough to believe that rather than restore the former glory of the Christian Center, that we should bury it. That view was shared actually by members of the faculty, staff, and probably some trustees. And if you look inside this place, you can understand where they're coming from. But cooler heads prevailed. It took vision, it took guts, it took foresight, it took patience, it took perseverance. And I think we're all glad we're here today. It was a place I remember from the mandatory chapel, and that's one of those things that we're glad we don't do anymore here. Or instead of having 232 entering students, we'd have 2 entering students. So not only that, it was a place where we worshiped in the chapel and in the auditorium, that we had classes, that we studied, and there were other things that took place that we'll talk about another day. But I think the thing that I remember most about the Christian Center was the Millsaps players under Lance Goss. And if any of you had the privilege, pleasure of seeing the players at that point in time, it was an unforgettable experience in terms of the quality and the passion of Lance, as well as the people, that his students who participated. So this is an edifice worth saving in many respects. And I'm grateful to all those that participated in this decision to restore it. And most of all to Rob Perrigan, who when he first came here, walked through this place and wondered what the future was like. And Rob carefully, studiously, deliberately looked at all the angles and all the opportunities and the threats of keeping this, and together the Board of Trustees made the decision to move forward with it. And I want to thank the board for its foresight, and for just as summer, as you may know, you should know, that we have not finished all the fundraising to complete the work on this. That doesn't mean that we're going to stop the work once we've spent the money that we've raised. What it does mean is we're going to raise the money to finish it in a timely fashion. But it took the faith and guts of the trustees to authorize Rob to go forward with Yates Construction Company and to execute a contract so that we will now proceed with the construction of this and the Visual Arts Center in the next month or so. And so for all those that have participated in this decision and here to share this great day, I thank you. And so it is my great pleasure to introduce our president, Rob Perrigan.
Thanks all for being here, and thanks especially to my faculty colleagues who have joined us this afternoon. It's a real privilege to have you with us. Feel free to keep scooting around that way as the sun heads over the building. The Christian Center was built in 1950 with funding from the Methodist churches in Mississippi and from a number of individual donors, many of whom were Methodist related. The building was dedicated to members of the Millsaps community who had lost their lives in World War II. With a memorial hall in the front entrance, a large chapel auditorium in the center of the building, offices and classrooms for our Department of Religion. It also housed offices for student publications, Purple and White, the Baba Sheila, open courtyards inside the structure provided light and places for reflection. The nature and contours of the original building spoke clearly to religious studies, to matters of faith and community. In 1967, the courtyards were enclosed and partitioned into faculty offices. The additional classrooms were added. The stage area was expanded. A massive fly space was added over the stage, and the building played a greater variety of roles with public forums, the theatrical productions, co-curricular activities, and so forth. In this way, the Christian Center became, in many ways, the cultural center of the campus. Passing years, as well as neglect, weathered and degraded the building. These physical challenges meant campus culture changed as well. Students seeking a foundational understanding of the humanities did so in classrooms of disrepair. Students seeking a space for worship and contemplation found it only in the periphery of the building in a small chapel in the corner. Most recently, students who found inspiration within the walls of the Christian Center found it through their own intellectual and spiritual grit with the help of their faculty, colleagues, and friends. The structure itself offered little inspiration for the pursuit of either reason or faith, much less excellence, as is our motto. So when I first toured the Christian Center as a candidate for president, which Tom mentioned, I was surprised and a little disheartened by the condition of this supposedly iconic building. And when I began my work at Millsaps, on my desk the first day was a report that indicated the stage area had to be closed off because the rigging over the stage was hazardous and unsafe. Another report on that same desk that same day was that the HVAC system was on its ninth life, and certainly last ninth life, and baling wire duct tape to the contrary notwithstanding. I also found curious, the 2004 architecture and planning report by the consultants that were used at that time, and it said this, quote, "The Christian Center is in an even more precarious condition than the older residence halls. The yazoo clay underneath the building has destabilized the structure to the point that it must be demolished in the near future." The report went on to say the Christian Center is structurally unsound and needed to be replaced. The recommendation of the report: move existing functions out of the building and remove the Christian Center from campus. So, as we began our working in 2013 with the new campus master plan, we all, Hastings and Chavetta out of St. Louis, we all assumed the Christian Center would need to be torn down. That was what we believed for the last 2 or 3 years. But as we explored the origins of that determination that the building was structurally unsound and needed to be torn down, and looked for engineering reports and surveys that would provide background and definitive proof for this foregone conclusion, we came up empty. No such documents or reports existed. We couldn't find surveys that said this needed to happen. Instead, there were actually geotechnical reports and engineering reports from 2006 and 7 that said just the exact opposite, that it was a building that had stability and integrity. There was also the insightful comment by our geology professor, Stan Galicki, who offered his view that the building and the grounds on which it stood were far more stable than most people thought. So, in 2013, the spring of 2013, we undertook a number of building and analysis of buildings. Steps included a new engineering analysis, and which the quote from that was, "This building is of sound nature and not in jeopardy of failure." Moreover, Robert Parker Adams, a nationally acclaimed historic preservationist architect, made several visits to campus, spent many hours examining the Christian Center, exploring its history, and he concluded that the building and its iconic facade were in good condition and its history well worth preserving. So, in a memo to the community in August 2013, I wrote, "I've come to believe that the Christian Center can be restored and once again be a point of pride, a crown jewel for our campus. It is a meaningful legacy and a strong architectural profile, located as it is on the crest of the highest point in Jackson, next to Murrah Hall and not far from the James Observatory. Each of these historic buildings faces West Street and the Midtown community, where, as part of our strategic plan, we're partnering with organizations and schools and businesses to advance the collective well-being of our community and provide a rich educational experience for our students." So now, after 3 years of planning and 2 years of fundraising, the transformative renovation is underway. When finished, this building will indeed be a jewel on this campus. The new Christian Center will include faculty offices and meeting spaces for the departments of English, History, Religious Studies, Philosophy, and Classical Studies. Our students will engage with the humanities in new upgraded classrooms and state-of-the-art lecture hall. We'll provide seating for 180 students. We're restoring the internal courtyards, which will bring light and into this building in private, quiet, contemplative spaces. A suite housing the chaplaincy, Center for Ministry, and the Wesley Foundation will help strengthen our relationship with United Methodist Church, as is called for in our strategic plan. The memorial lobby will be restored and enhanced to honor those from Millsaps who have served and sacrificed. And the renovation will return a beautiful chapel to the heart of the building, providing a sacred space that has not been available on our campus for many years. Serving as a worship space and as a center for the college's religious and spiritual life, the new chapel will allow students of all faiths to connect their intellectual, spiritual, and moral commitments. We'll also provide a central, sacred gathering space for our community in times of celebration or in times of sadness. So defying conventions of the day by surrounding the chapel with academic space for the humanities, Millsaps is reinforcing the shared values and compatibility, but not without tension, of reason and faith, with the mind and the heart. In all, the project will cost $13.5 million. We've raised $11 million, which means we still have $2.5 million to go. And we will take cash, credit cards, check anything you might have. Many alumni and friends have stepped forward to make this transformative renovation a possibility. I want to thank just a few here. The Selby and Richard McRae Foundation has committed a gift of $4 million to the Renovation Christian Center. This is an extraordinary gift to Millsaps, and we're pleased that the legacy of Selby Watkins McRae, a 1946 graduate of Millsaps, and her husband Richard McRae, longtime trustee of the college, will live on as part of this historic building. Upon completion, the building will be rededicated as the Selby and Richard McRae Christian Center. We're honored to have with us today Vaughn McRae, a 17-year member of our Board of Trustees, and his wife, Bill Francis, Susan McRae Shanner, and David and Katie McRae. Many thanks to the Selby and Richard McRae Foundation and the McRae family for your incredible generosity. The William G. Yates family has committed a gift of $2.2 million to the project. William served on our Board of Trustees from 2008 to 2016. While in that leadership position, William expressed his family's interest in helping build a chapel at Millsaps. In recognition of their generosity and faith commitment, I'm pleased to announce today that the chapel will be named for the Yates family. William, it's my pleasure to thank you publicly for your friendship and for your family's extraordinary commitment. Thank you. A current member of our Board of Trustees and a 1981 graduate of Millsaps, Chuck Latham, once said to me, "When you think of Millsaps, you think of the Christian Center." And that is where he chose to make a $1 million gift, the first $1 million gift to this project. Thank you, Chuck. Coming over from Dallas to be with us tonight. I'd like to be here and Chuck. Also want to recognize other major supporters of the project for now. Bill Blair, Mary Lynn and Luke Harrison, Francis and Cooper Morrison, Connie and Joey Shelton, and my wife, Pete. I invite you to see the list of donors there and the renderings and enjoy this after the service. I also want to recognize Millsaps alumnus and honorary degree recipient Bob Adams. Bob was instrumental in helping us explore the history of this building, determining that it could be saved, and developing the initial architectural plans. Bob was a true inspiration behind what we're doing today for envisioning the future of the building. Thank you, Bob. We're also very pleased to be working with some of the finest architects and contractors in this country. Delighted to have with us this afternoon Dale Architects Company. Thank you very much, including meeting with us yesterday to continue moving walls around. And thank you for the Yates Construction Company, one of the finest construction companies on this planet, and what a privilege it is to have them as part of this. So thank you all for being with us today, for helping us reclaim this building for our students in the future. This time I want to invite David Davis, Associate Professor of History, for remarks, after which we'll hear from William Yates and Vaughn McCrae, and then Joey Shelton will close our program with a blessing. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Over the last few years, it's been easy to join folks in pointing out the rather obvious cracks in the walls of the Christian Center, the fading and peeling paint. One of our favorite games was trying to determine what country or continent that looked like. Worn out carpets, leaky roof. And looming over all of this was a tower that had been damaged by Katrina with a broken clock. I also realized in those few years that the building is just a few years older than I am. So maybe I too am in need of renovation and facelift. But the main thought that I had occurred to me this past summer as I was packing up my office. I know I heard the voices of T.W. Lewis and Ross Moore, the wise counsel of Professors Midius and Bergmark. I even think I heard the hammer and the saw of Brent Lefevre and the squeaking rocking chair of Lance Goss. There were echoes of the sound of music and Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, the beauty of Miss Welty's words, and the laughter of hundreds of school kids entertained by puppet masters. It was up these steps, the ones you're sitting on, that courageous students from Millsaps and Tougaloo answered the call of a higher power. They joined hands and hearts and minds in defiance of hatred and danger. And it was out these doors that our community left inspired by the vision of Senator Robert Kennedy. Through these halls have walked future physicians, bishops, community leaders, presidents of colleges, and poets, recorders of the past, and shapers of our common future. After 9/11, the frozen clock faces of the bell tower served as a reminder to our campus of the national tragedy that happened in New York, Washington, and Pennsylvania. The hands were reset to the times of the 4 plane crashes. During Katrina, some of you will remember, this building sheltered faculty families who had no power and had no water, including my own. And after the storm passed, it welcomed transfer students from New Orleans, from Tulane, from UNO, into our classrooms. Now these very bricks, these halls, these doors, that tower will be refurnished, refurbished, and refreshed. I was pleased to walk these halls with Bob Adams, I think a history major, if I remember. He shared his vision of preservation and renovation of the space. Thanks to the humanities housed in this building, we have architects like Bob, who value historic spaces and give them new life and meaning. Thanks to all the faculty who have occupied these offices. We have medical doctors who are creative writers, business leaders who value community theater, and teachers who care about their students more than their tests. This has been and will continue to be the heart of our mission as a premier liberal arts college. Thanks to Mr. Adams' vision, the generosity of so many friends of the college, including the McCrae family, the skilled hands of these women and men from Yates and Dale, the renovated space will be a safe, comfortable, state-of-the-art learning environment for the humanities. Housed within these historic walls, this will be a place where the minds, hearts, and spirits of students will continue to be inspired, challenged by the legacy of those who have come before us. Thank you.
Well, good morning. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Thank you for being here today. Before I say my brief remarks, and you said I had about 30 minutes, right? I want to recognize the design and construction team. I'd like to ask Bob and anybody from Dell and Associates and anybody on the H team, if you would just stand or raise your hand and let everybody see the team that's going to make this happen. So that is the leadership team of what's going to take this building and transform it into something magnificent. And on behalf of that entire team, I just want to tell you what an honor and a privilege it is for the Yates organization to be involved in this project. We have some great projects and honors of being all over the world in some different things, interesting things from the State Department to Volvo to Mercedes. But this project has a special place in our hearts. And there's several reasons for that. Number one, I have been talking to Rob about this project for several years. He reminded me of that in a letter this past week. 6 or 7 years we've been discussing this and talking about it. And his vision and commitment and dedication to make this happen has really been inspiring for me and our organization. Without that sort of passion for this, I don't think we would be here today. It's been contagious for us at least. And I wanted to point out that Rob's leadership has been critical in getting our involvement in making this happen. So thank you very much for that, Rob. The second reason we're excited about this is because even though I didn't go to Millsaps, I've come to appreciate the history of this building, what it means to the campus, and then being able to leverage that history and project and think about what it can mean in the future. And so knowing it's a critical part of the vision of Millsaps and what it's going to be and what it's going to continue to do for the growth of the college has been another exciting thing about this project that's gotten us really engaged and passionate about it. The third thing about this project, and you may have figured this out based on some donation that our family and our company is making to this piece of it, is the component of the Christian Center known as the chapel. That has a very special place to me personally, to our company, to my family, and being able to provide a space where Millsaps students for years and years in the future can come and worship is very rewarding to us and very meaningful to our family, and we're very, very proud to be a part of that. So on behalf of the entire Yates team, thank you for the honor of being a part of the team. We look forward to a fantastic project together, and I hope to see you at the ribbon cutting. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of my fellow trustees of the Selby and Richard McRae Foundation, my sister Susan, my brother Richard, who's represented by his son David here today, I want to thank President Perigin, Tom, the Board of Trustees, for allowing our foundation to be a part of this important project for the future and the life of Millsaps College. We especially appreciate the generous offer that the college made to name the renovated Christian Center building in memory of our parents, Selby and Richard McRae. The involvement of the Selby and Richard McRae Foundation and our family in this project is really fitting on a number of levels. First of all, on a personal level, speaking as probably the closest neighbor of the college, I can actually see the Christian Center every morning when I'm sitting in my back door drinking coffee. The health and the well-being of the Christian Center and of the entire college is very important to me. On a family level, both our mother and our father's families have long and deep ties to Millsaps College. As Rob said, our mother was a graduate of the college, and a great uncle of hers, Alexander Farrar Watkins, was the third president of Millsaps College. Our father served as many years as a trustee of the college, and he held the honorary degree Doctor of Public Service awarded by the college. My sister Susan attended the college, as did a number of our aunts and our uncles and our cousins. Over the years, our parents chose to support the college in many ways, including endowing a faculty chair in the Elsa School of Management and also endowing an ongoing scholarship program that helps Millsaps continue to attract top scholars
as students. However, being these family connections and being a good neighbor can only go so far in explaining our personal interest in Millsaps. I think our family's abiding interest in the success of the college is best explained in the theme of the college's current strategic plan across the street and around the world. The future of Jackson, of Mississippi, and of our world demands great leadership, and Millsaps College has for almost 130 years been a source for those great. Am I right? 130 years? I was not a math major. Has been a source for those great leaders. Doctors and lawyers and teachers and architects and bishops and government leaders, business leaders, scientists, journalists, and parents who shape the future through their children. Alumni who make the difference, students who are making the difference across the street and around the world. This building will be home to many of the humanities departments, and through the various disciplines, the humanities encourage us to think critically and to communicate well. The humanities encourage students to discover the best of human thought through the ages, and not just for their personal enrichment, to prepare them to be, but to prepare them to be leaders across the street and around the world. I was trying to think of something really pithy I could come up with to explain what I think is the importance of Millsaps College. If I can say this without getting a little emotional, I'll try. I think probably the best words about the importance of Millsaps College have already been said, and they bear repeating, and I don't think I can come up with anything any better. And these are the words of Leila Wynn, life trustee of the college, and she, in a Founders Day address a few years ago, she said, "I don't want to live in a state where ignorance is accepted as the norm, where racial bigotry is tolerated, where intellectual achievement is not applauded. I don't want to live where music and art are not appreciated, where ethical behavior is not required of office holders, where literature is not prized, where intellectual freedom is not secure. I don't want to live where honesty and honor are not revered. In short, I don't want to live in a state without Millsaps College."
Thank you, everyone, for the words. As a United Methodist pastor and a graduate of the college, it's a real privilege to be able to stand before you today. I know this has been a passion and a dream of President Peregrina's from the very beginning, and I think it goes without saying, President Peregrina, I personally am really grateful for your passion and for us being able to come here today to celebrate this great project. The United Methodist Church has a 260-year tradition of church-related education. Leaders of the United Methodist Council of Bishops, the National Association of Schools and Colleges of the United Methodist Church, and the General Board of Higher Education and Ministry entered an education covenant of partnership back in 2000. And the reason I bring this up is because the strategic plan of Millsaps is exactly in harmony with this covenant that supports United Methodist Higher Education, which is the largest non-Roman Catholic system of higher education and the largest system of historically black colleges in the United States. The covenant pledges to support providing quality education and vital and vibrant faith communities that prepare individuals for lives of committed service. The covenant includes the following: create an inclusive and celebrative atmosphere that nurtures and supports the faith journeys of students, faculty, and staff. Uphold the vital principle of academic freedom where there is open and honest pursuit of knowledge and wisdom without restriction, and with respect for the integrity of both the educational institution and the church. Stress through teachings and example the worth and dignity of each person with an emphasis on voluntary community service and international relations. Prepare students, regardless of social standing, ethnic identity, or gender, for lives of intellectual vigor, moral integrity, and spiritual fulfillment, not just as personal benefit, but for leadership in a new century. Affirm this relationship between the church and the educational institutions openly and with appreciation for our mutual history and shared potential for the future. In the United Methodist tradition of John Wesley, the connection of vital piety and service and knowledge has always been at the forefront. The connection of head and heart and hand. Knowledge transformed into wisdom, transformed into soulfulness, transformed into care for the common good. And now may the intersection of academic disciplines housed in this edifice weave a tapestry of thinking, reflecting, conversing, imagining, faith, hope, and love that reveals an inward beauty of excellence in the people who enter these doors. Amen.